Hey guys, welcome back to part 19 of my 24 parts. I'm closing in on the final run now. Just 5 more videos left after this one, I think. 20, 21, 20, yeah, 5 more left. There's a quick math for you. And this time is the turn of David Silva. Tonight we've already done the other Silva, Bernardo, who was outstanding, of course, and the young prodigy himself, Phil Foden. And this is the turn of El Majo, David Silva. And this was very much a tale of 2 halves of the season. And I feel like in general, when we reviewed the season, and it's human nature to do this, we tend to have a recency bias. So I really wanted to remind myself exactly how he got on, because I felt like his slight dip in form towards the end of the season really clouded my judgment with David Silva. And it was really nice to remind myself exactly how good he was at one point this year. We're talking like our best player levels of good. I think people in general have forgotten that. So it needs repeating. So we have to consider the whole season, not just remember the past 2 or 3 months, because we all struggle to generally remember past that, given the amount of games that goes on, given the amount of stuff that flies around. And it can't be understated how good he was during those formative months of the season. Basically, by December, he had 12 goals and assists, 9 goals and 3 assists in 22 games in all competitions. He was absolutely flying. There was articles in late November saying he's going to be the Premier League Player of the Year. Finally, after so many years of being ignored in terms of recognition for trophies, and all the pundits were purring about how good he actually was. During October and November, he had 9 goals and assists. 9 goals and assists in 10 games. He was absolutely on fire. I think at one point he scored in like 4 games in a row. He was just basically pulling teams to pieces, looking better than ever. He was bald back then as well, the little bald magician. He was reinvigorated. A 32-year-old just basically playing teams off the park, intuitive, creative, brilliant, hard-working, decisive, an absolute leader. And then there was a turning point. He got injured for 20 days or so in December, missed about 6 games. And I think it's fair to say for the next 3 or 4 months after that, he wasn't quite the same. I don't think he was anywhere near as bad as people made out at times. But even by City standards, a 6 out of 10 performance looks really poor alongside when you're basically surrounded by 8 9s all the time. I don't think he ever had stinkers when he was dropping 4s, maybe a couple, but in general, he was just all right, but just ineffective. The worst we ever got from David Silva, the best we got during that time was just like a couple of nice passes, and usually it was just there and kind of there and floated about a little bit. And he wasn't playing that great. I got a feeling maybe he needed a bit of rest at that point. Maybe there was still some pain. Maybe he wasn't playing quite as well. It turned out by the end of the season that he's played more minutes than any season since 2011-2012. That was the season where he turned 25. This is his busiest season since then, and he's now 33 years old, which is an astonishing fact that he's basically been running and playing more than ever. It was inevitable, in my opinion, that at some point he was going to drop off a cliff in terms of form. Now, whether his dip in form was down to fatigue and general age or him just getting older, we don't really know yet. It could be absolutely loads of reasons. I've got a feeling, and given the fact that his form did upturn, in my opinion, towards the end of the season, I thought in general, Old Trafford, he was really good. The annual David Silva masterclass at Old Trafford. Then he got better after that. He got a couple of goals. He was very, I think he got a big goal in the FA Cup final, of course, a couple of assists versus Brighton. He was getting very influential again. That to me showed that it wasn't just an age thing, that he still could do that. He still had the influential nature to his game. He still had the legs to be useful. He still had the tenacity to score goals. So you start to wonder what went wrong. I think personally he wasn't meant to play anywhere near as much as he played this season, but Guardiola essentially had his hand played for him by Kevin De Bruyne's repeated injuries and Fernandinho getting injuries as well. He started to pick up some injuries, which meant Gundogan had to play at number 6. Kevin De Bruyne was never there. Phil Foden wasn't quite ready yet in Guardiola's eyes to start big games, so he was left to Bernardo and David Silva to really kind of just hold the fort in the middle until, obviously, the likes of Kevin De Bruyne got back every now and then. But Gundogan started to sit deeper, and it basically meant David Silva had to play all the games constantly. He just wasn't really ready for that. And he ended up, as I said earlier, playing more minutes than he has in 7 seasons, which is just a phenomenal ask for a guy not getting any younger at all. I think we have to consider the whole picture when we're judging his season. At one point, he was going to be our player of the season. He was that good. So when you're getting 9.5, whatever, 10 out of 10, he was averaging a goal every other game, more or less, and he was just pulling teams to pieces. And then he did have his drop, but then he also played a big role in the last 4 or 5 games, which are crucial to securing a couple of trophies there. So you have to bear that in mind. I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10. I think he was good. Overall, he was good. He just wasn't the 9.5 season. He was still better than like 90% of midfielders in the Premier League. He'd still walk into pretty much every other team other than Manchester City, really. And he still walked into Manchester City's team. But that shows how good he was. And more than anything, David Silva, it's not always about what he does on the ball. It's that he is the beating heart of Guardiola's system. He, more than anyone, Guardiola's indicated this himself at times, and people close to Guardiola in terms of like Marty Perenniu, the guy who wrote his autobiography and all that kind of stuff, has said on podcasts that David Silva really understands the system. He is his brain out there on the pitch, Guardiola's brain, thinking and putting it into practice, and he has that leadership. Now, David Silva isn't a vocal leader, he isn't a shouting leader, but he's a lead by example kind of guy, very much in the mould of Xavi and Iniesta, those model pros that are absolutely loved by their fellow professionals, that don't ever let you down, that turn up, that are reliable. And that's why Guardiola loves him, almost certainly, because he's cut from the same cloth as those guys. And you've got to basically bear that in mind. I think if he hadn't had that injury and if he could have rested him every now and then, if De Bruyne had been around, I think we would have seen consistency and that level of form early on. I think it would have carried on and we would be looking at a vintage David Silva season. As it was still a good season. I want people to try and be fair with him and not just remember the past 3 months where he kind of definitely dropped off a cliff a little bit. But I'll give it a 8 because I think David Silva is fantastic. I still think he, overall, when you look at the bigger picture, he was very influential. His performances at the front of the season were a big part of where we were at the end of the season. So David, thank you very much. Fingers crossed he'll stay around next season. There's been a bit of rumours about him going to Japan, but there is a guy at Blue Moon for him, actually, who's good mates with David Silva. Genuinely is. He's always like spot on. He was the first one to talk about his problems last season, all that kind of stuff. And he said he's going nowhere, which is really, really nice, isn't it? We've got another year, which will be a transitional year for him. Hopefully now with Foden's emerging seniority and Gundogan's form back and De Bruyne hopefully not injured much next season, David Silva will be able to rest, he'll be able to play for key games, because I can't see him playing like anywhere near as many games as he did this season. He was overkill for a man of his age and physicality in that role. Anyway, guys, that's just my David Silva thought. Hope you agree with that. Go and check out the Bernardo Silva and Phil Foden and stay tuned for the Riyad Mahrez video.